Well, hello. We're here for Bible study, and I want to talk about a very important subject. It's about prayer. Most of us give up on our prayers, and sometimes we give up too quickly. And so we need to study this issue. How long should I keep on praying, and at what point do I give up? I'm going to encourage you that when you're praying for something, you're asking God for something, whatever you do, don't give up, but rather look up because God is ready to hear and answer your prayer in due season. Sometimes he'll say yes, sometimes he'll say no, other times he'll say, let's wait. And so we're going to look at the parable of the persistent widow that's found in Luke 18, 1 through 8. And I want to encourage you from God's word, whatever you do, don't give up on your prayers. But the question becomes, what do you do when your prayers is unanswered? Most of us quit. So do you quit? I say no. Do you give up? I say no. And the truth of the matter is, Jesus knew how we become discouraged so quickly when it comes down to our praying. And so what he does is he tells a story and he gives to us what we call a parable. Now, you need to write this down. There's two kinds of parable. There is a contrasting parable and there is a comparison parable. And this parable is actually a contrast parable found in Luke 18. Starting in verse 1, it says this: Then Jesus told his disciples a parable to show them that they should always pray and not give up. And so there's an alternative that Jesus is giving right there at the beginning of that verse. He is saying, either you pray or you become discouraged and give up. Either you pray and become discouraged and give up. But he says, no, don't give up. He said, whatever you do, look up. And if you're discouraged, you need to know you're not praying. You can't be discouraged and praying at the same time. So there is the story of the persistent widow. And he begins by telling us about two very different kinds of characters. There is a powerful judge who is not only powerful, but to some degree, sort of evil. Doesn't do the right kinds of things, and we know that we have judges like that all in our country today. There's a powerful judge contrasted with a powerless widow, and so Jesus makes this contrast, and the contrast is between God, really is between God, and the unsympathetic judge. It's God and the unsympathetic judge. Though there's a contrast between the powerful judge and the powerful widow, behind the powerful widow, the powerless widow, is actually a powerful God. And so in verse 2, the judge is hard, he's callous, he's hard-boiled, he's unsympathetic, he's heartless. He doesn't really give a hoot, if you will, about this poor widow woman. And in verse 3, it talks about this widow woman who's in distress. She's having a problem. There's an unknown situation, but there's also an unfair situation. And this woman actually has no rights. Back in those days, and especially sometimes even in our day, women don't have rights. And the social ladder, if you will, or the social system did not include, women. They did not have the same rights as men back in those days, and it's kind of like the same kind of a thing today. And the word that's used in the text is actually the word in the Greek form is kora, which means that she was being forsaken, she was left empty, and she feared her fate. But this woman was no pushover. And there's a lot of women who are not pushovers. You think they're pushovers, you mess with them today, and you'll discover that they're really, really lions, tigers, and bears. They will stand up. They will speak up. They will, let their mind be made known unto you. But this woman is no pushover. And so in verse 4 and 5, you'll read it. There's a battle of the wheels. Yeah. There's a battle of the wheels. No weapon, but her persistency she kept on going back to this judge, trying to get him to adjudicate a case that where she was unfairly dealt with, and she needed the adjudication or the judgment of the judge in order for a issue to be corrected. She was overwhelmed, but she kept on going back to the judge. She became a nuisance, if you will, about the issue. She was badgering the judge, and finally the judge decided, hey, wait a minute. I have met my match. This lady is making my life miserable because she won't give up. She won't give up. Remember those words. Don't give up. This woman didn't give up. And so Jesus is going to say, when it comes down to your prayer, whatever you do, don't give up, because somebody is going to become exhausted, and it ought not to be you. It should be, what you're praying for. So don't give in. Verse 5 says that to give, go back at it. So what's the point? What's the point of the text? The point is this, that God is eager to answer my prayers. God is not like that judge. He's eager to answer my prayer. Remember, the contrast is between a powerful judge and a powerless widow, but it's really about a powerful judge and a powerful judge and a God who is more powerful than the judge. Okay? Because God is the one who is backing up this lady. So God, write that down. God is eager to answer my prayers, and I don't have to wear God down. I don't have to badger him like the judge, because God is a different judge than the judge inside of this particular parable. He'll answer you. He'll give you peace. He'll quiet your storm. And you don't have to just keep badgering him about it. He already knows in advance what he's going to do. And he just wants to see whether or not you will be like this widow, persistent, stick to it, and stick-to-itness in your prayers. What does he say? He says, I'll answer you. I'll give you what you want, and I'll bless you even in spite of it all. So there's a contrast, okay? There's a contrast between, yes, the widow woman who is powerless, the judge who is powerful, but there's also a contrast between the powerful judge and the powerful God. And never forget, God always, I don't care who you are, God always, he is always going to win out no matter what. He's always going to win out. I wish you would write that down, that God always wins out no matter what. Because he's not a heartless judge. He will help you. He's waiting to help you. That's who God is. So the question becomes, why should I become and remain persistent? Why? Why keep on praying when there's no answers? Let me give you 4 reasons. Because number 1, persistent praying helps me focus on God. So when God is not answering you right away, all he's trying to do is to let you know that he wants you to be persistent and focused on him. So he's trying to give you an understanding of who he is. And the only way he can do it sometimes is to hold off on his answer, so you'll decide and figure out that, hey, God really is a good God. You say, well, I don't need to be reminded about that. Yeah, I know I do. I've gone to seminary. I've been in theological school. I have an earned doctorate. I have earned master's degree. I have honorary degrees, doctorates, etc. But I do need to be reminded, yes, of some of these things about who God is. Here's what Philippians 4:19 says. It says, and my God will meet all your needs according to his glorious riches in Jesus Christ. So persistent prayer isn't about blackmailing God. Hey, God, you need to do this, that, and other. It's about focused attention on who God is. We like to look to everyone else but God to solve our problems. We like to look at our family. We like to look at our friends. We even turn to the government. We go to counselor. But Psalms 105:4 says, look to the Lord and go to him for help. Can I say it again? Look to the Lord and go to him for help. That's what persistent praying does. God may delay the answer so you can focus in on him, not necessarily your problem, but the problem solver. Number 2, persistent praying clarifies your request. Persistent prayer clarifies my request. A delayed answer gives you time to clarify exactly what you want. So often we just go off the cuff and say, here's what I need. This is what I'm going to ask God for. But we haven't really thought it through. And sometimes God is just trying to mold what you're requesting. He's trying to put you into a frame of mind where you know, I thought I wanted this, but now I've discovered this is really what I'm asking him. And so what he does is he waits and helps you while you're waiting to refine your prayer. What is it that you really want? Do you really want this, that, and the other, or is it really about this, that, and the other? It's a test. And the test is, when it comes down to praying for something, how bad do you want it? Are you willing to be persistent in it? You got to read Zechariah 13:9. Here's what it says in one of the interpretive Bibles. It says, I will test them as gold is tested. That's what God says. I will test them as gold is tested. Then they will pray, and I will answer them. Where's that found? Zechariah 13:9. 13:9. So when God is delaying the answer to your prayer, it doesn't mean denial. It doesn't mean no. It means I'm testing. I'm trying to get you refined in your prayer, and I want you to be able to clarify what you're really asking so you'll know when I answer it, I gave you the right thing that you really was asking for. So, truth of the matter is, if I don't really want it bad enough, I shouldn't ask God for it. But once I find out what it is that I really want, I'm going to pray and pray and pray. You know, he may not, you can't go to God like the Aladdin did and Aladdin comes out of a lamp because you rubbed the lamp. It doesn't work like that. No, it doesn't work like that. Jeremiah says this in 29:13, write it down. If you will seek me and find me when you seek me with all your heart. There it is, Jeremiah 29:13. And nothing is worthwhile getting unless you have all your heart into it. God doesn't want you to be half-hearted about what you're asking for in your prayers. He just wants you to be sure that what you're asking for, you really do want. Thirdly, persistent praying prepares me for the answer. Here's a secret. God usually wants to give you more than you're asking for. And so you'll turn around and say, oh my goodness, I didn't ask just for that. God gave me more than that. Here's what Ephesians 3:20 says in the Living Bible. It says, now glory be to God, who by his mighty power at work within us is able to do far more than we would ever dare to ask or even dream of. Infinitely beyond our highest prayers, desire, thoughts, or hopes. Ephesians 3:20. He wants to give you always more than you ask for, but he wants you to be clear on what you're asking. So sometimes we ask for small blessings. And God says, hey, listen, that's all you want? No, I think I'm going to hold back until you ask for this, that, and the other so I can give you more. The greater your prayer, the larger your returns will ultimately be. And so God needs to give you time to get ready for this marvelous prayer that he's getting ready to answer. So, I'm thankful that God hasn't answered some of my requests so easily and on my schedule. Because the truth of the matter is, when I got what I asked for, I really couldn't have handled it had he not prepared me for this big, if you will, blessing that came my way. I could tell you many, many instances. I prayed for a house, and oh my gosh, I didn't know God was going to give me this. I thought He was going to give me this little bit. And then once I got this house, I had to furnish it, in Sycamore Hills. And so that's how God works. Sometimes God is just trying to change your mind about something. So prayer changes things, but at the end of the day, prayer changes you. God wants to not just answer your prayers and give you all these things. He wants to change you because He wants to take first place in your life. And oftentimes, He takes second place. So, when God gives you a great big answer to your prayers and give you far more than you ask for, suddenly you start to say, I love God, I adore God, I'm praising God because God is better to me than I can be to myself. So sometimes, you think it's a tug of war. God is doing this here, and I got to do this here, and I got to wait, and I'm waiting too long, and I've got to struggle, and all of that. And so now I'm going to do this here, and then God does it. God does not work that way. No, He doesn't work that way. He needs time to prepare you. Fourthly, this is the last point, that persistent praying strengthens my faith. Faith is like a muscle. You got to develop it and work it, and you got to stretch it. And so praying persistently is what I call faith-building exercise. Well, you get on a treadmill, you got to set time, whatever else. You don't give up at 20 minutes or 15 minutes. You keep on going. You're working out. Well, you got to work out when it comes down to faith, and God's got to strengthen those faith muscles. And sometimes waiting tests your faith. How much can you endure? Because at the end of the day, what He wants is, He wants maturity for you. He wants you to mature as a Christian, as a lover of God, and as a lover of Christ, so that you can handle even the crises in your life. And sometimes you won't even have to ask Him, because your faith will say, you can't hurry God. Oh no, you got to wait. Give Him time, no matter how long it takes. Here's what Galatians 6:9 says. Write it down. Let us not become weary in doing good or well doing, for at the proper time we will reap a harvest if we do not give up. In other words, hang on in there. Be patient. Why? Because harvest is going to come. And so Jesus concludes the story with a challenging question in Luke 18:8. He says, when the Son of Man comes, will He find faith on earth? What is He looking for you to have? Faith on earth. Why does He mention faith? Because the size of your prayers shows the size of your God. Write that down. The size of your prayers. You got a big God? Ask God for big things. And then your persistency in what you're asking as you refine it demonstrate your faith. So faith and prayer goes together. You can't pray without faith, and you can't have faith without prayer. Have I got a witness in the house? God in your prayer is really testing your faith. But you need to know that He's not only the tester of your faith, Satan is too, because he wants to weaken your faith. And so Jesus admired the widow because she refused to give up. She was persistent. She was what we call tenacious. She was what we call determined. And so the question becomes, how quickly do you give up when the answer is not immediate? Let your faith be persistent. Well, God bless you. I hope you enjoyed this lesson. Might have been a little bit too long, but it is what it is. We'll keep on talking about these kinds of things, encouraging you during disencouraging time. Love you so much. God bless you.